All right, in this video, we have none other than John Eberhart and Steve Sherk talking about what you should be doing as scrapes dry up. We hope you guys enjoy it. Here we go.
When usually everyone talks about scrapes, they're talking October 22nd to the 1st of November. When do you see those scrapes start to turn back on, and why do you think that is?
Okay, that's a very good question, and I've got a really good answer for you. Because pre-rut, there's a pre-rut, peak rut, post-rut. Okay, pre-rut is what we were just talking about. That's when the bucks are out checking their scrape areas for those early ester stows. Once the peak rut gets there, most of your big bucks, even out there, even when we're in Kansas, I'm talking the 150s and bigger, they're doed up. You hardly ever see them. They push does into bedding areas, and they don't come out during the daytime. So you'll see 125, 30, maybe a 140 incher, but you're not seeing the big ones. So once it gets about the 23rd, 24th, it's almost to the day, the 23rd, 24th of November, that's when you start seeing those big bucks, because now the majority of the does in the area are bred, and now he has to go out just like he did during pre-rut. He has to go out post-rut. His testosterone is still high. He has to go out and physically search now for those late estrus does. So they're not as frequent as they are during the peak rut. And during peak rut, once he finishes one cycle, he can just go take over the next one. Even if she's with another buck, the dominant one will take her over and push her into a bedding area and breeder. So post-rut is every bit as good as the pre-rut. I think it's actually a little bit better because they're a little bit more worn down. Their eyes are drawn. They just come through with reckless abandon, like I was mentioning with that 180 incher we talked about. And I don't know. I think after the 23rd or 24th in the Midwest, post-rut, if you're hunting in a state where the gun season doesn't open until December, I think that post-rut is absolutely the best time to kill a big buck.
That's pretty interesting because I've killed 4 bucks with a bow, fairly new to archery hunting. 2 of them, November 23rd, November 24th.
Yep.
And in Pennsylvania, you can't hunt.
It is interesting.
In the state of Pennsylvania, there's no deer season after November 20th.
After when?
November 20th.
I thought you poached him on
In Ohio.
November 23rd?
I shot them in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
I shot those in Ohio.
I'm just kidding.
But I always said, that's one of the best times to be in the woods.
Yes.
In the state of Pennsylvania, you can't be in the woods.
Yep. It's that late rut. Most of the does are bred, and bucks are just a lot more active looking for those late estrus does. They have to move a lot more because there's a lot of bucks in those areas, and it's really competitive. So they have to get out and physically search, or the late does are going to get bred by somebody else.
Makes sense.
Yeah. That's interesting. You picked the same 2 days,
Yeah.
23rd and 24th.
Yep.
There's some validity to that. Some
Yeah,
truth for sure.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, well, that's refreshing to know because people listening to this is probably going to air that third week of October. So they're thinking, all right, I'm going to get it done this week. And then if it doesn't happen, don't quit. It's going to get better. That, 23rd, 24th. In Illinois, I'll see that often, but our shotgun season is the weekend prior. So things change pretty drastically. But I still get some really big deer on camera during that time and them going back to those community scrapes. So
Gun seasons change things.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why Ohio, Iowa, and Kansas, where they open in really late in November or December, are so awesome for post-rut hunting.
When you're targeting scrapes in this time of year, October 23rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, if you had to pick one day to hunt a scrape, what would that day be? And where would you be?
I would probably, because I'm so much about the weather, but probably, I would say
it's hard to. It's an unfair question.
I know. I mean, I would. Let me just put it to you this way: I'd rather hunt scrapes between the 20th and the 25th versus the 25th to Halloween.
Okay.
Because what I find is you do start to get a few hot does once you get closer to Halloween, and that's from Halloween, through middle of November. I mean, scrapes are still hit somewhat, but I'd rather hunt that peak scrape phase, which is pretty much right now till, I would say roughly the 25th. And then I do think things start to just slowly drop off. So I would, if we could, I'll say from now till the 25th, scrapes, you probably can't. You're not going to find a better time to hunt scrapes. Now, where? I would still I still prefer out of anything to hunt near doe bedding. A lot of times though you don't find a lot of scrapes near doe bedding. You really got to look for them. But if you find a good active scrape in or around doe bedding this time of year, and you got does working it too, you if you hunt that a few days, 9 out of 10 times you're going to get a shot at a good buck.
That's it for you.
That's it. Exactly.
If you have historical data on a certain area, how much are you relying on historical data when you're hunting scrapes?
I mean, this is when I talk about historical data, to me it's not like every year this scrape turns on within a 5-day stretch. I have not seen that consistently or a certain area. Like I see rut areas, but it could be anywhere from Halloween to mid-November, or even right now, could even be from right now till then. It's just in the big woods, it's a little different because food sources are changing. You're not able to get deer to do exactly what you want them to do. I could see if you got the feed and you've developed the bedding cover, I could see more historical data being more accurate. But there's so much land here, and deer have to adjust every year as food and different things are changing, that it's hard to really narrow it down within a certain week in a certain area.
Sure.
But within a few weeks, usually, like I said, I have a lot of traditional scrapes in that. You'll see it seems like every scrape has its peak week, or maybe not quite a week, but a good 4 or 5 day stretch, and then it will just get hit sporadically after that.
And if you miss it, I mean, you got to keep moving on.
Yep. Remember when you talked about, when you went to Ohio, and on your way down there, the scrape was just getting pounded, huge bucks, you said, and then as soon as you got there, it was done.
Dead.
And
yeah.
that's a good point why you need to be aggressive this time of year. You get 1 or 2 days, especially on cell cam, if you have cell cams and that scrape's getting pounded, I don't care what you got to do, you need to get in there, because you might have another day or two and it's done.
Yep.
So,
and that was later in November. That was November 10th, 11th, and 12th.
And what you might have had there was you could have had a hot doe in the area by the sounds of it, because that's, even if she wasn't hitting the scrape, that's generally what you'll see in November is, those bucks are kind of, they're inferior. They are, they're getting aggressive and fighting, and everyone's working that scrape to kind of say, no, this is my spot. So good chance once she's out of heat, especially in the big woods, those bucks could be 5 miles away the next day.
Once scrapes start to dry up, you said you don't like to hunt, like if you had to choose between the last week of October, you would hunt scrapes at the beginning.
Yes.
Once that kind of tapers off, where are you shifting your focus to?
It's still, a lot of it's still in the same areas. Like, basically, whenever I notice what I call the rut shift in certain areas, I just mainly focus on does, preferably doe bedding, overfeeding, just kind of keep bouncing around to those doe bedding areas. You'll also notice that, this is where people can make a mistake, is you'll hear the guy say, all I'm seeing is the same 3 does or 4 does in a spot, and then, they give up on it. Little did they know, the next week, one of those does came in heat and that spot's on fire. So you just got to really monitor the does throughout November and try to get on that area when they're in heat, especially if you have a good pile of does, 4, 5, 6 or more. There's also a good chance, though, in November, at least almost every week, 1 or 2 of those does is going to be in heat, and an area like that can just be on fire the whole rut. So finding good concentrations of does throughout November, to me, is just that's all I really care about. In fact, I don't even check cameras that much. Not that I don't check them at all, but my main thing is just staying on does, because that is the number one thing on a buck's mind in November. Especially a mature one, he's already been through ruts before. He knows he's only got a few weeks to get this done, and they do whatever they can to coincide with Mother Nature and, make new deer for generations to come.
Yeah.
Yep.
So during that time of year, Are you shifting cameras at all, or are you still leaving them on your scrapes and just checking them less frequently?
A little bit of shifting, but most of those cameras are already out there right now, and a lot of those areas, probably more than half of them, majority of them, it's just doe pictures right now. And that, like I said, that can just be a big mistake, as someone, will say, because I've heard it many times, all I'm getting is doe. They pack out and they try to find the bucks, and little did they know that, you're in the right spot. It just wasn't the right time yet,
Yeah, it seems like the big key point to hunting big wood scenarios is patience.
Patience, exactly.
You have to be willing to put time in an area and trust what you know,
Yep.
and let the deer tell you what they're going to do.